Inside the Magic, show number 409 for February 3rd, 2013.
Howdy, folks. Please keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the train and remain seated at all times. Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, 'cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
It is Sunday, February 3rd, 2013. This is show 409 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I am your host, Ricky Briganti. We've got a pretty big show packed with a lot of surprising Disney news and a whole lot more fun. And before we jump into all of that, I invite you to visit InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and plenty more. And if you ever have any news, tips, questions, comments, anything else you want to send in, you can always email me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Sail with the best cruise line for families. Kids sail free, and shipboard credit offers for the Disney Cruise Line on select sailings are available. So you're going to want to call Magical Travel to let them help you plan your perfect cruise vacation. You can do that by calling 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote, and be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive a free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And of course, thanks very much to listeners and viewers like you for your donations, one-time, recurring. You can do all that over at InsideTheMagic.net, as well as click through any of the affiliate links for various companies like Amazon, do that kind of thing. When you do your shopping through those links, get a little bit of credit for that. So I thank you very much for all of it. And now, let's get started with our trip around the world.
Time to be turning around. If only you could. If you finally found your laughing place, how come you aren't laughing?
We start with a bit of foreboding tone here from an appropriate attraction, Splash Mountain. And of course, at the top of the show, we heard a little bit from Big Thunder Mountain, and you've heard these for a very specific reason. After more than 40 years, Tony Baxter, famed Disney Imagineer, has stepped down as role as Senior Vice President of Creative Development at Walt Disney Imagineering. He is going to stay with Walt Disney Imagineering in a part-time role as an advisor, but it seems Mr. Tony Baxter, a name that we all know and love from many, many years at Walt Disney Imagineering, is now moving into an advisor role, only no longer working for Disney full-time. He started with Disney many, many years ago, back when he was just a teenager working at Disneyland, and eventually worked his way into WED Enterprises, as it was known. And that was the precursor, of course, to Walt Disney Imagineering. And at his time at WED, as well as at WDI, he worked on attractions like Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. He was pretty much the head of that project. He also championed Journey into Imagination, the original version over at Epcot, Splash Mountain, the Indiana Jones Adventure. The list goes on, and it was a big shock and a surprise to not only to Disney fans, but to many of Tony's co-workers, fellow Imagineers, folks throughout not only Disney, but throughout the theme park universe. Everybody has looked up to Tony Baxter as one of the sort of pioneers of this. You know, there was the first generation of Imagineers that Walt Disney personally brought together from all of his animators and other areas of Disney, and then came Tony Baxter sort of moving into there and you know, became the next generation of Imagineer. And for him to be moving away from Disney, and he's only in his 60s, is definitely a surprise. Tony actually wrote a rather long open letter to his fellow Imagineers explaining, sort of looking at the past and explaining the future and his decision. I'll read just a little bit of it here. Tony wrote, quote, "Going forward, no company is perfect, and like any other corporation, Disney has its own politics and challenges. We are artists, engineers, managers, managers, filmmakers, and musicians, but our company is unique. There is no place like it on Earth. We are lucky, and at the end of the day, it is my hope that this letter will add to the special culture that I have been privileged to grow in. And it goes on and on from there. You can read a lot of the letter over at InsideTheMagic.net, as well as Walt Disney Imagineering did issue some official statements regarding Tony Baxter's more or less departure. He's not gone completely from Imagineering, but he's taking a huge step away. Their official statement was, quote, "Today we announced that Tony Baxter is leaving his role as a creative development executive to become a part-time advisor to Imagineering. In this role, he will serve as both a creative advisor to the business and a mentor to current and future Imagineers." Bruce Vaughn, who is the chief and creative executive at Walt Disney Imagineering, in the statement said, quote, "Tony has been involved in some of the most iconic Disney attractions around the world and was the creative lead for our second international park, Disneyland Paris. Like so many Imagineering greats before him, his creativity, passion, and knowledge will have a remarkable impact on the next generations of WDI dreamers and doers. We thank Tony for his immeasurable contributions to the Disney legacy so far and look forward to the next chapter of his Disney story," end quote. And then in the same statement released by WDI, Tony Baxter himself was quoted as saying, "It has been a wondrous 47 years spanning the opening of Walt Disney World to Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and Star Tours, from Epcot's original journey into imagination to Disneyland Paris and Indiana Jones Adventure. The Imagineers I have known and shared these times with have provided invaluable experiences not to be found anywhere else on Earth. The future of Imagineering in Disney parks is incredibly bright," end quote. Now, as for the reasons behind Tony all of a sudden deciding to sort of take a back seat and not be a full-time Imagineer, well, that is much debate out there amongst the theme park community. Of course, if you believe everything that Disney is putting out there, you would think everything's perfectly happy and that it was just simply time for, after 47 years, as he said, for Mr. Baxter to, take a step aside and let the next Imagineers step in. But from what I understand, that's not entirely true. In fact, there's been a lot brewing within the culture of Imagineering, a lot of sort of taking sides. There's been Tony's side and way of doing things, very traditional sort of the approach of storytelling in all those great attractions that we listed there, and then kind of the other side of things, where other Imagineers have kind of gathered to their little clique, if you will, and don't necessarily agree with those traditional ways that Tony and the Imagineers that came before him have set up to do things, and Disney may be looking towards a different direction for Walt Disney Imagineering in the future. So, of course, Disney's not going to comment on any of that, but there's definitely a lot of rumblings in there, even some notes that more or less Tony was sort of given not quite an ultimatum, but really it was kind of a, we have to pick a side here. Either we're going to go in this direction or we're going to go in your direction, and they both can't happen. So, there's a lot more to the story. I don't pretend to know everything. It's a lot of hearsay that I've gathered from folks who are sort of in the know there, and I can't really say too much further other than to say not everything is as Disney perfect as you might think within the halls of Walt Disney Imagineering, but we should certainly look back on the amazing career that Tony Baxter has had, and Disney is doing just that. Of course, recently, within the last few weeks, they did put out a portrait that's being installed to Big Thunder Mountain out here, Walt Disney World, of a character called Barnabas T. Bullion, who, greatly resembles Tony Baxter himself. Of course, as I said, Baxter was instrumental in the creation of Big Thunder Mountain, and this really is a tribute to him. Of course, when Disney announced that, we didn't know that it was going to be kind of a farewell tribute, that it wasn't just sort of a tribute. So interesting that will be going in there. So that was the big, shocking, surprising first bit of news this week. It'll be interesting to see how much of a role, really, if any, Tony goes on to do in the future, but we'll definitely miss hearing from him around Walt Disney Imagineering. He was one creative guy and had a hand in so many amazing projects. We'll continue with some sort of downer music here, because another surprising announcement came out this week, though this one probably wasn't quite as surprising. There was another ousting, if you will, around Disney due to poor sales and reviews for Epic Mickey 2, Disney Interactive this week has shuttered Junction Point Studios. Of course, that is the developer of the Epic Mickey series, founded in 2005 by veteran game developer Warren Spector, who you've heard from here on the show. They were acquired by Disney in 2007 to create the Epic Mickey series, which now is not going forward. It's all been closed down. Definitely a surprise this week. Disney released this statement, quote, "It was with much sadness that we informed our teams today of changes to our games organization, which include the closure of Junction Point Studios. These changes are part of our ongoing effort to address the fast-evolving gaming platforms and marketplace and to align resources against our key priorities. We're extremely grateful to Warren Spector and the Junction Point team for their creative contributions to Disney with Disney Epic Mickey and Disney Epic Mickey 2. So another surprise there. A lot of people were big fans of the Epic Mickey series, though the games didn't necessarily play as well as they should have. Spector, certainly a very passionate guy, very creative guy, and best of all, can be credited with the return of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. After being quite the silent character for decades and decades, Oswald is now a speaking character, part of Disney, and we're looking forward certainly to seeing more of Oswald in the future. Of course, he's at Disney California Adventure and all over merchandise, and I can't imagine we're going to, just because Epic Mickey is going away and Junction Point is going away and even Warren Spector no longer works for Disney, I imagine Oswald will certainly still continue. However, it definitely will go down in those Disney history books that it was Warren Spector's doing, essentially, and Junction Point's doing, that really brought Oswald to life more than ever before, which is pretty exciting. Warren Spector also posted a goodbye letter of sorts on his Facebook, which I've reprinted over at InsideTheMagic.net if you want to read it. I'll read a little bit of it here. He wrote, quote, "But now it's time to..." Man, I almost said now it's time to say goodbye to all our family, which would have led me right to MICKEYMOUSC. Let's just say now it's time to move on to the next adventure. I honestly don't know what that will be yet, so don't ask. So, we all know that Warren Spector is going to move on to more video games. He's done some amazing things in the past. Epic Mickey was just two of the grander collection of video games that he has worked on, and there's no stopping him. I had a chance to hang out with him at San Diego Comic-Con, at Disneyland, and at Walt Disney World. Even rode the Haunted Mansion with him, had plenty of time to chat with him. Great guy, very creative, very personable, and very exuberant and passionate about what he does. So I'm looking forward to seeing whatever he does in the future. But that's it for Junction Point and the Epic Mickey series. So, continuing with the same kind of tone here, although I can't say that I have any more closures to talk about, but here's a kind of something a little bit crazy that happened this week. So, I think it was last week on the show I had mentioned that United States Congressman Edward Markey had issued a public letter to Disney, specifically to Disney Chairman and CEO Bob Iger, with a whole bunch of questions, concerns regarding the privacy surrounding MyMagic+ and specifically the MagicBand, which we've been talking about for a few weeks here now, the system that will basically enable, through RFID technology, guests of Walt Disney World be able to take these MagicBands around the parks and get into the parks, get into their hotel rooms, tap to pay for things, use it for FastPass purposes, etc. There's a lot of uses for these, and Congressman Markey was concerned about how all of this was going to work and how much data Disney would be tracking. Well, Bob Iger responded just 4 days after Markey issued the letter, and Iger was not happy, to say the least. He firmly retaliated to Congressman Markey, and I thought it would be worth reading his entire letter here. Call it a dramatic reading if you want to. The letter is dated January 28th, 2013, so almost a week ago, to the Honorable Edward Markey. And so it goes. Congressman Markey, for 90 years, Disney has been synonymous with high-quality entertainment for families and children of all ages. We use creativity, innovation, and technology to create memorable moments and experiences for our hundreds of millions of customers and guests. And as you well know, Disney's record and commitment to children's safety and security and the protection of their privacy is exemplary. People around the world trust Disney and its products. That trust is the cornerstone of our company, and we take it very seriously. We are offended by the ludicrous and utterly ill-informed assertion in your letter dated January 24th, 2013, that we would in any way haphazardly or recklessly introduce a program that manipulates children or wantonly puts their safety at risk. It is truly unfortunate and extremely disappointing that you chose to publicly attack us before taking the time to review our policies and or contact us for information, which would have obviated the need for your letter. Had you or your staff made the slightest effort, you would have found most of the answers to your questions already existed and were publicly available online at, and he lists 2 websites. Continuing. In the enclosed attachment, we address the questions in your letter about our new, yet-to-be-launched program, My Magic Plus. However, to ensure that you fully understand our practices and as they pertain to children and our commitment to our guests' privacy, let me be clear and reiterate the basic fact. My Magic Plus is a completely optional program that was designed with privacy controls from the outset. Disney does not use personal information to market to children under age 13, does not personalize or target advertisements to an individual child, and never shares children's personal information with any third party for their marketing purposes. Additionally, parents have full control over their child's participation in My Magic Plus. We have transparent privacy practices. Guests can control and limit the amount of information they provide to us and how their information is used. Further details are attached. Sincerely, Robert A. Iger. That's quite the letter. That is Iger to Congressman Markey, clearly upset at all of the allegations, if you will, that Markey was insinuating that Disney was doing, perhaps something sinister or devious, or even, a little bit of, behind-the-scenes marketing towards children. Bob Iger's clearly saying, no, we're not doing any of that, at least not for kids under the age of 13. And he did, as he said, attach a couple of about 2 pages worth, which you can read over at InsideTheMagic.net, of answers directly to Markey's questions, although he wasn't entirely transparent on how the information is going to be used for those who are over 13, just that it wouldn't be anything more than you opt in. And that's the end of that. So, any of you who are concerned about the privacy, like Congressman Markey is, about using RFID in the parks, using MagicBand, using any of the new ticket material that will have RFID embedded in it, you can opt out of it. Of course, you'll then be opting out of many great new features around the parks, some things that will make your lives easier when around the park. So that's kind of your choice. Either forego a little bit of privacy and let Disney take a hold of a little bit of your information, knowing where you are and what you're doing around the parks. I mean, it's their parks. They have the right to know that. Or you can not do that and just not enjoy the new technologies. That is certainly your choice. So very interesting there. Again, you can read the full text of that letter along with the attachments and Markey's original letter as well over at our website. So, on a related note, and this should conclude the sort of downer portion of the show here, I've just read a few minutes ago, this is late Sunday night that I'm recording this show, I've just read, and I haven't been able to confirm this with Disney yet, but apparently starting a couple of Mondays from now, February 18th, Disneyland may start enforcing, this is Disneyland in California, not out here Walt Disney World, Disneyland may start enforcing the FastPass return times just as Walt Disney World did fairly recently. Of course, that was a lead up out here to the whole FastPass Plus system. Whether or not that's headed to Disneyland, nobody knows at this point, but maybe consider this rumor right now because I haven't been able to confirm it personally, but keep an eye out. That it may start to happen at Disneyland as well pretty soon. All right, so now let's move on to some happier fun here. Not that all of that wasn't exciting and certainly interesting. It's been a strange week around Disney, certainly. But let's talk about some characters out here at Walt Disney World, and specifically limited time magic. Much to say once again this week. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about this every week from now until the end of the year. I think that's the point. Disney wants limited time magic to continue on, changing all the time. So, of course, last week we were talking about the long lost friends. attendance for limited time Magic when the 5 groups of characters were out in Town Square at the Magic Kingdom out here. And this week over at InsideTheMagic.net, I posted 6 different videos, one for each group, and then one summary of the whole limited time Magic thing and a whole bunch of photos. So if you want more from those characters, definitely head on over to our YouTube channel and the website to see that. Now, today was Super Bowl Sunday, and for the last few days, there was a bit of limited time Magic that happened out here at Walt Disney World, in which pre-parade was going on at the Magic Kingdom. Started on February 4th. Today was the last day of it. Tomorrow actually is the last day, February 4th. And it's sort of a Super Bowl football-themed pre-parade before the afternoon parade, and it's going to culminate tomorrow, February 4th, with the appearance of the MVP of the winners of the Super Bowl, of course, were the Baltimore Ravens, and the MVP was the quarterback, Joe Flacco. And he'll be there at the Magic Kingdom midday or so, actually a little bit before the afternoon parade, which is generally 3 o'clock, the celebrated Dream Come True parade. So he'll be, in a cavalcade sort of thing, big celebration, balloons and confetti and all that kind of stuff going down Main Street, USA. So if you're a big fan of football and the Ravens and all that good stuff, you can see him in person if you hear this in time, or maybe you already read it. Anyway, I'm not going to be there because I haven't gone to the last several. I don't really care. I really just watch the game for the commercials, and they weren't even that great this year. But anyway, there's a little bit more of the limited time Magic going on for a few more days. It's what Disney's calling the Soup Bowl, and that's S-O-U-P, like soup. And that's going on through February 9th over at Cosmic Ray's Starlight Cafe. There's different soup inspired by each of the 2 teams, the 49ers and the Ravens. The 2 soups are lobster bisque and tomato basil bisque. Many have pointed out the fact that lobster really ought to be swapped out for crab, but that's beside the point. Those are the 2 soups that are being offered for a limited time, Magic at the Magic Kingdom. Continuing with some more limited time Magic goings on. This is going to be happening over at Disney California Adventure. The next installment of some limited time Magic is something that's returning from last year, the Disneyland Resort, the Lunar New Year holiday, or the Chinese New Year holiday, or whatever you want to call it. It's taking place February 8th through the 11th. It will include some special merchandise pins, special food that sounds really delicious, cultural performances, and Mulan's Chinese New Year procession as well. All of this took place last year at Disneyland outside It's a Small World. This year they're moving it over to California Adventure, so you can enjoy that for just a few days while that is going on overseas. And then following that is going to be the big True Love Week, which this week Disney released some details about how that's going to work. It's going to be surrounding Valentine's Day, of course. It's going to be February 11th through 17th. Again, this is all part of Limited Time Magic. And this is going to be taking place on both coasts, Disneyland as well as the Magic Kingdom. And there'll be meet and greets and dinners and merchandise and photo opportunities. There will be banners on in both parks. There's going to be pink and red and different shades of sort of Valentine's-y colors on the respective castles. There'll be special merchandise, of course. At Disneyland, most of the sort of meet and greets are going to be taking place in Fantasyland in the Royal Walk, where the princesses will be there as usual, but now they're going to be joined by their princes as well, which is a special opportunity. Naveen will be joining Tiana in New Orleans Square, and over in Town Square, Minnie's going to join Mickey, and Daisy will be joining Donald. There will also be romantic dinners for 2 and prix-fixe menus at the Blue Bayou, Cafe Orleans, Carthay Circle Restaurant, and Steakhouse 55. Out here at Walt Disney World, there will the special meet and greets will include Flynn Rider joining Rapunzel, Prince Philip with Aurora, Bert with Mary Poppins, Naveen with Tiana, Minnie with Mickey, as well as over in Fantasyland. This is going to definitely be a long line to get this one. Cinderella's glass coach will be parked in the park for photo opportunities. And the prix-fixe menus out here will be at Artist Point, The Wave, Hollywood Brown Derby, and Yachtsman's Steakhouse. Are really scattered all over Walt Disney World. So there it is, the next limited time Magic, so you can kind of plan ahead a little bit for that one. And I was just talking about the Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, and I really should have linked that to this story. It's not Disney, but it is something that I posted over at InsideTheMagic.net this week that is about the cutest thing you will see probably in your entire life. It's from the San Diego Zoo. New baby panda cub was born a few months ago, but just went on display to the public a few weeks ago, and I was there while I was out in California a couple of weeks ago, and visited the zoo for a few hours specifically to see the panda cub. His name is Zhao Li Wu, which means little gift in Chinese, and I've posted a whole lot of video video and photos over at InsideTheMagic.net. So definitely head over there and check that out. And I encourage anybody visiting Disneyland at some point, go down to San Diego and check out the San Diego Zoo. It's a pretty amazing place. It is practically a theme park unto itself. It's huge, and it's got sky buckets if you're nostalgic for those. And of course, now it's got this amazing little baby panda, which is, yeah. So anyway, it's only about an hour and a half drive if you don't hit too much traffic, so not too bad. Let's move on to the world of movies now, where again the big news continues this week. Lots of movie news came out, starting with the official announcement of the next Muppets movie. It's going to be called The Muppets Again. That's the title. It's The Muppets Again. And it kicked off production this week in London. And the big star in the movie, other than the Muppets, of course, Ricky Gervais. It's been confirmed. That was rumored for quite a while. And I think he had actually confirmed it as well. But in addition to Ricky Gervais, a photo with him with Miss Piggy and Kermit came out in front of the London Underground. Anyway, he'll be in the movie. Ty Burrell will be in it, as well as Tina Fey. Walter will be returning, the new Muppet that showed up in the last Muppets movie. He'll be back, and the movie's going to be coming out on March 21st of 2014, so a little over a year away for that one. Then, if you didn't get to see Wreck-It Ralph in the theaters, it means you probably didn't see Paperman, the excellent short film from Walt Disney Animation Studios. Well, good news, Disney has posted Paperman online for you to watch for free on YouTube. Very rare occurrence there. You don't have to go buy it. You don't have to go to iTunes. Just go to YouTube and find it. Or, of course, I've put it over on InsideTheMagic.net as well. You can check it out there. Paperman was ahead of Wreck-It Ralph in theaters. Will be included on its Blu-ray release, which is coming out pretty soon also. But just go online. If you haven't seen Paperman, go see it. It's excellent. Just go pull it up. It's only like 5, 6, 7 minutes long, and it's very, very good. In fact, it's so good, it is now an award-winning short. The Annie Awards, the awards for Outstanding Achievement in Animation, took place this week, and let me run through the very large list of awards that Disney won this year for the Annie Awards, starting with several awards for Wreck-It Ralph for Best Animated Feature, the top award there for Walt Disney Animation Studios. Also, direction in a feature production went to Rich Moore of Wreck-It Ralph. Voice acting in an animated feature went to Alan Tudyk for being King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph. He definitely did an excellent job in that role. Writing went to Phil Johnston and Jennifer Lee, again, of Wreck-It Ralph. And music in an animated feature production went to a very long list of artists, including Skrillex and others. And yeah, it's like 7 people long, so I'm not going to read them all here. But anyway, moving on from there, as I said, Best Animated Short Subject, the award went to Paperman, and that's from Walt Disney Animation Studios as well. Now, here's 2 that I'm very happy to see, but also a little bit sad. Character Design, Best Character Design in an Animated TV or Broadcast Production went to Robert Valley for Tron Uprising, specifically for the episode The Renegade Part 1. Then, Best Production Design for an animated TV or broadcast production went to Alberto Mielgo for Tron Uprising as well, the episode The Stranger. Very, very deserving. The show looked great. Unfortunately, it's over. Last week was the final episode of Tron Uprising, unless somehow, someway, Disney XD or Disney in general decides to bring it back. The ratings were not good, though, and of course it got bumped to Sunday night, late at night, at midnight, which didn't help anything. But you heard from Alberto, who is now an award-winning production designer for that show. You heard from him many months ago when I was out at Comic-Con, had a chance to sit down with him and talk with him. Brilliantly talented guy, nice guy too, and it's great that he won an award, and that the show is now an award-winning show, even though it's not on the air anymore, which is disappointing. Moving on from there, Best Production Design in an Animated Feature went to Steve Pilcher for Brave, of course from Pixar, and then in voice acting for animated television broadcast production went to Kristen Schaal as Mabel Pines in Gravity Falls. And finally, this one is not Disney, but it is theme park related. Best Animated Special Production, which is kind of a specialized category, went to Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem for Illumination Entertainment. Of course, that's the attraction that's out here at Universal Orlando and is rumored to be headed to Universal Studios Hollywood as well. A lot of news this week, but we're rounding it out with one more movie story, which is another sort of surprising announcement that came out this week that certainly got a lot of buzz, and everybody's very interested to find out more. Walt Disney Studios has made it known that the live-action movie, upcoming live-action movie, previously known as 1952, is now going to be titled Tomorrowland. and it's going to be coming out December 19th, 2014, about a year, almost 2 years away. George Clooney is going to be the star of the film, and it's written by Damon Lindelof and Brad Bird. Of course, Lindelof came from Star Trek, Lost, Prometheus. He's going to produce the film as well, and Brad Bird of The Incredibles fame is going to produce and direct the movie. And both Bird and Lindelof seem to be playing into a bit of online marketing game of sorts for this film, sort of teasing out information. They both tweeted some mysterious photos of this box or kind of briefcase-looking thing that claimed to be unearthed from the archives of Walt Disney Imagineering with a label on it that says 1952. And inside, once they opened it and they tweeted out photos of what was inside, there's a lot of old items, as you might imagine, in a box dated 1952, including photos of Walt Disney. So now, of course, everybody is speculating, well, with a name like Tomorrowland, and there's pictures of Walt Disney, is this indeed about Tomorrowland, or is this about the development of Disneyland? Is George Clooney going to play Walt Disney? Or, you know, a lot of speculation out there. Of course, nobody knows exactly what Tomorrowland is all about, other than something Tomorrowland. And actually, there was one last little tidbit, kind of jokingly. Lindelof also tweeted that the movie will not be about aliens. So, yeah, that's good to know. So, I imagine we're going to see a lot more sort of sneaking its way online in this elaborate marketing scheme in the coming months, leading up to some sort of announcement, but they have nothing to share at this point. So there it is, your news from around the world this week. And this week's tip comes in from an anonymous cast member who writes, resort guests at Walt Disney World can ask for late checkout up until 1 p.m. without getting charged any kind of an extra fee. This does not apply to vacation club rooms, as vacation club rooms are never allowed to do late checkout, but there's only a certain allotment of rooms available for late checkout, so it's highly recommended to call the front desk and ask for a late checkout a few days before your departure date. Waiting until the night before could mean that your late checkout request will not be approved. Excellent tip there. I actually did not know that you could have a late checkout option, and that certainly would be handy if you're, you know, it's a little slow to rise. You don't want to get out of the room by 11 o'clock in the morning, or you haven't packed yet, you got in late night before. Anyway, you can find all kinds of reasons to do a late checkout. It's worth asking for, and what's the worst they could say is no. So, yeah, I will definitely do that next time I'm at a Disney hotel. Everybody else out there, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. And now, before we jump into something really fun here, and that I just planned a few minutes ago, I also first want to put in a quick word about capturing magic. And this is a new iPhone apps, capturing magic iPhone apps. They are the ultimate tool for documenting and recording the magic of your Disney vacation. Whether you're at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, Capturing Magic offers a helpful list of photo opportunities and memories to capture before, during, and after your trip. It is the perfect way to ensure that you don't miss any kind of a magical moment. While you're in the parks, the app is going to remind you of desired photo opportunities on your list when you're near those locations. And then whenever you take a photo, you can just mark off who's in the photo and on which camera that it was taken, so you can easily find, export, and organize those pictures later. You can even email yourself that list or a list of all the photos that you took during your trip. The Capturing Magic iPhone apps are available now in the iTunes App Store.
And now, an Inside the Magic contest.
So when I was going over the news this week, and there was a lot of it, I was looking at, all that kind of depressing news. Tony Baxter out at Imagineering. Epic Mickey's not happening anymore. Junction Point's done. Warren Spector's gone. What can I do to make this a little bit more exciting? And then I remembered I've got some Epic Mickey prizes that I never gave away. Of course, I gave away Oswald ears. I gave away copies of the game Epic Mickey 2 itself, but I've got some bonus items that I need to get rid of here, and I'm sure some of you are still fans of Epic Mickey 2, even though it doesn't isn't going to be developed any further. So, prizes that I have to give away here on this week's show in honor of the closure of Junction Point Software. Let's see here. I'm unfolding it at the moment, so I can show it up on the camera here. It is a t-shirt, Epic Mickey 2, the Power of 2 t-shirt. On the back is showing the backsides of Mickey and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit ready to fight, and it's got the little logo on the front side for Epic Mickey 2. So I'm giving that away. And I've got two other little prizes here. One is the Epic Mickey, the Power of 2 clicker. This is the little device that you see Oswald the Lucky Rabbit using in the game. This is sort of his weapon of choice where he electrocutes things. This one is compatible with the Wii and the Wii U. You can use it while you're playing the game. Of course, you could just have fun with it if you don't have one of those systems, but it helps to have that because then you can actually have some real use out of it. The other one's a paintbrush. This, of course, it lights up. Both of them light up, in fact. The paintbrush is what Mickey uses in Epic Mickey. So 3 prizes. We're going to go for 2 winners here. Because why not? I think the paintbrush and the clicker should go together as one prize because they kind of go together, and then the t-shirt will be a separate prize. So 2 winners, and I thought of this so very recently that I didn't even really come up with a way to enter this contest. I literally just pulled these out of a box right before I started recording. So on the fly here, let's see, what should I do to make y'all or have y'all enter and win this contest? Usually I do trivia, right? So let's come up with some sort of fun trivia for Epic Mickey. All right, here's a very, very easy question. It's just the one that came to me off the top of my head, and we'll make it 2 questions, actually. Question number 1 is, and you're going to email the answers to these, as usual, to contest@insidethemagic.net. In the subject line, put show 409 contest, and you're going to answer these 2 questions to enter to win these prizes. Question number 1 is Main Street USA, of course, is what it's called at Disneyland and at the Magic Kingdom, but what is the equivalent of Main Street USA within the world of Wasteland and the Epic Mickey video games? Question number 2, right now you've been listening to the excellent music from the Epic Mickey series. In fact, the music may very well be better than the games themselves. Who is the composer of this music? Those are my 2 questions. From those of you who answer them correctly, I will randomly choose 2 winners and announce them on next week's show. So you need to enter before that date. Of course, next week's show will be on February, let's see, you know what, just to make it easier on me, let's make an earlier deadline because I always do this at the last minute and then I'm scrambling to put it all together. So here's what I want to do. Let's make the deadline for entering this February 8th, and I'll pick an arbitrary time. Let's say 6 p.m. Eastern time. Let's mix it up. So you must enter this by February 8th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. If you're hearing this after that time, well, you're out of luck. So maybe I can go to Oswald to get a little bit of luck for you. Anyway, so there's the contest if you want to enter for a shirt or these other 2 doohickeys there. And if you have a preference for one or the other, you can mention that in the email. I'll try to accommodate. No guarantees. So there it is. A little bit of a contest in honor of the end of the Epic Mickey series and Junction Point Software. R.I.P.
Hear ye, hear ye! Royal guests throughout the land! The princesses are arriving from their enchanted kingdoms!
So now I've got a special advanced sort of sneak peek look to offer you here on this week's show. It happened out at Disneyland this week. I got an invitation to head out into Fantasy Faire, which is not the same as Princess Fantasy Faire, which is where this audio music is coming from. Fantasy Faire is the new area at Disneyland that is currently under construction over by Sleeping Beauty Castle. It's replacing the Carnation Plaza Gardens, much to the dismay of many of the fans of swing dancing that have been around for many years at Disneyland. But Fantasy Faire will be the new home when it opens very soon, a little over a month from now. Actually, opening date was set this week for March 12th. That is going to be when Fantasy Faire officially opens. It's to the left of Sleeping Beauty Castle, and it's going to be home to princesses and shows and a big courtyard where you can have some special food. Of course, I'm sure there will be merchandise. There will be a stage area, and it's going to all be very Fantasyland-like, kind of extending Fantasyland, almost Disneyland's own little sort of Fantasyland expansion, if you will. And so it is still under construction, very much so. And of course, I'm out here in Orlando, so I couldn't be there personally to go on a little tour of this area. However, I was able to send our good old buddy Paul Berry from A Window to the Magic to check it all out for us, and he brought back plenty to talk about and to enjoy here. So rather than me going on and on about it here, I actually want to take you over into the construction zone, and we had a little tour, or I'm going to give you a little tour, courtesy of a couple of Imagineers, and continuing on through more and more information as we go through. So first up, you're going to hear an overview of what Fantasy Faire is from Imagineer Michel den Dulk, who is in charge of much of this project. And so let's head on over into the Fantasy Faire construction zone to what it's all about.
Hello, everybody. It's great to have you here on this beautiful, beautiful day here at the happiest place on earth. I'm here to tell you some exciting stuff that's going on behind me. As you can see, we're in the process of finishing this project, and there's a great bunch of highly skilled people working to make this all, as pretty as people expect a project from Disneyland. So Fantasy Faire, right next to Sleeping Beauty's castle, Disneyland's own expansion for Fantasyland. As you can see, we're right next to it, and we tried to pick up some of the architecture of the castle to blend this area that formerly was known as Carnation Plaza Gardens into Fantasyland, and make it one homogeneous land when it's finished. The princesses will find their new home here at Fantasy Faire, and we have a great attraction right behind us, behind these buildings, called the Royal Hall. The main entrance is in construction right now. It's that building that still has a lot of plywood on it, and the covered queue area is behind it. When people enter our attraction, they will first go to a little garden here outside, and they can enjoy the views on the castle and the views on the creek, and then ramp up towards the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, and then go inside, ramp down before they are going into the Royal Hall attraction. Behind me is our main facade, and there's a couple of nice details in it that I want to point out. One of the details that I'm really excited about is Clopin's music box. It's a little interactive that guests can play with, and it's right there underneath that little slim facade with the shutter that's closed. And when it's all finished, you will see a very colorful Gothic little structure, and it has beautiful gold finials and painting and a nice little window and a crank in the bottom of that structure. And as soon as you turn that crank, you can set a little scene that's inside of it, made out of painted flats, into motion. So Clopin, which will be the main character scene in that little structure, will start to dance, and the audience around him will start to dance as well. And every now and then the hunchback will peek out of the Notre Dame and kind of see what's going on the square in front of it. And the sun will go under and the moon will go up. So I think that will be really a charming little detail that people can play with and discover when they're walking into this new area at Disneyland. Right next to that is a beautiful facade, and it has a frame that you can kind of see the outline right now already. And that frame is will have a beautiful poster in it that is not so much a poster as we know a lot of posters from Disneyland and other Disney theme parks, like a ride poster. It's more a poster in theme of the land. So if you imagine that you were living in this medieval town and the fair is coming to this town, then that poster is kind of an advertisement for that. In front of it, here in the middle of the square, is will be placed a sculpted version of Rapunzel's tower that, of course, is used in the movie Tangled. And again, it's not going to be an actual representation of her tower. She is not living there, but somebody got inspired and made a sandstone sculpture of her tower, iconic tower. But, you know, Disneyland wouldn't be Disneyland if there's something magical going on. So she, a stone version of Rapunzel, is peeking out of the window, and her hair is like an architectural ornament swirling around the column. But at night, you will actually see that there is some magic in her hair. So you will hear Alan Menken's melody that you hear when Mother Gothel touches the hair, and then little sparkle lights will twist around the column, and then every now and then they will disappear again and appear again. So again, I think also a very neat little detail, and it's right in the middle of our square. When you come over this bridge where you guys are sitting on, which is our main entry bridge for the Fantasy Faire area, it will be right in the middle, greeting our guests when they come in. Going on, the tower behind it, I always call it the Troubadour Tower, a main architectural feature in the land, a kind of iconic shape. It will have a beautiful finial on top of it, a staircase to a balcony. If you guys went to the Blue Sky Cellar, you see in one of the cases a carved out of wood, supposedly owl, that will be a newer post on that spiral staircase, and a lot of people ask me, like, what is the owl representing? But to me, that balcony was always used to do announcements to the townspeople that are very, wise announcements, important announcements for the townspeople. So the owl is for ages already in the Western world symbolic for wisdom. So I thought it would be neat to put an owl in there. And actually, if you look at our movies like Sleeping Beauty and Bambi, and there's some more examples, owls are always in there, kind of as a wise character. Going on, moving to the left, we'll see the existing pass-through to the El Zocalo restaurant and Frontierland. We extended it a little bit so that when people come out of the meet and greet attraction, they are not outside, they are kind of in a covered area, and they can walk into our beautiful shop called Fairy Tale Treasures, which is the building with the blue roof on the left. So I think that will be a really nice new shopping opportunity here at Disneyland. Before I go to the Royal Theater Pavilion, first I will point out our food cart, Maurice's Treats, that's right next here to the bridge. Maurice came to the fair, and he came up with all these little food inventions, and thought that the fair would be a very appropriate celebration to present his food inventions there. So he parked his little wagon here, and you're now able to try out what he came up with. And then last but not least is the Royal Theater. That's of course the existing original pavilion that was here for a long, long time. The structure will remain the same, as you can see, but we will redress it to tie it into the Fantasyland theme. We added two big entry portals that are the marquees to the entrances of this venue, and there will be a beautiful Gothic proscenium built to give the very nice shows that Chris Utley will talk about in just a few seconds. And new Disney characters, a great stage, a great home.
So that was creative director Michel Dulk talking about giving an overview of what Fantasy Faire is going to be like. Of course, there was one detail that he accidentally left out as he was going through the list of all the interactive sort of experiences and animated items that will be found. He was talking about the Rapunzel Tower and the Clopin's jukebox or whatever, and so then later in a Q&A he elaborated on one final detail, one really fun little animated touch that'll be found in there, and that is Figaro, the cat from Pinocchio. So let's go back to him to let him talk about that as well.
Figaro is indeed making an appearance in Fantasy Faire, and he's sleeping on one of the little facades and on the windowsill. Will be asleep most of the time, but every now and then he will wake up, and he will wake up when he recognizes a little Disney melody that the bird is singing, and then the bird and the cat interact in a very simple way. This is not going to be another Johnny Depp animatronic. It's done in a way that we know from Fantasyland, the traditional dark rides. So it's going to be very quaint and charming. The bird and the cat will interact a little bit, and then Figaro, as cats love to take naps, will fall asleep again, and the bird will just twitter and look around and be very curious, and then after a while it will happen again. And this is sort of in the same vernacular as the Queen above the Snow White Scary Dark Ride, and peeks out of the window and then she disappears again.
So some simple animation that'll be going into Fantasy Faire, just sort of those little elements that you see when you're walking around the park. You see for just a second as he's, comparing it to the evil queen peeking out above Snow White in Fantasyland out there. It'll be fun to go in that area and see sort of these, little additions that are just, those things you stand around in the street and you wait for, and then you see it, and then you go along your way. There's actually some artwork of what Figaro will look like. He mentioned the Blue Sky Cellar. The Blue Sky Cellar was recently updated to Disneyland to illustrate pretty much everything that's going into Fantasy Faire, including the animations that Figaro will do. It seems like he'll be sleeping most of the time, and then every once in a while poke his head up and paw at the birdcage nearby, which will be a fun little addition to the area. Of course, in addition, there was another Imagineer on hand as well. In addition to Michel there was Christopher Utley, and he shared just a little bit more about what is going into the Fantasy Faire area. So let's listen.
As Michel said, my name is Chris Utley, and I am the show director for this project. And first off, I do want to offer a personal thanks to all of you for being here. I appreciate your taking the time, and this is such a fun project, and I look forward to our opening. The Royal Theatre of Fantasy Faire will be presenting two of Disney's most popular fairy tales, Beauty and the Beast and Tangled. And these shows will be performed by our resident thespians, Mr. Smythe and Mr. Jones. Mr. Smythe and Mr. Jones are reminiscent of many of the old comic duos that we're so familiar with, Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy. And they present these shows in a very comical, fun, fast-paced, whimsical, highly theatrical way. Mr. Smythe and Mr. Jones are joined by our Disney princesses. In the case of Beauty and the Beast, we have, of course, Belle. And a special appearance by Lumiere. In the case of Tangled, Princess Rapunzel will join the gentleman, as well as her love interest, Flynn Rider. As I said, the stories are presented in a fun, whimsical kind of way. We also have a live piano player, Sir Samuel of Morocco, who will be providing the accompaniment and underscore. And it's very similar to what you might experience at a silent movie, where the piano accompaniment provided the drama and the fun and the energy. A nice touch to this. Audience will have opportunity to participate by shouting huzzah for the hero and fie for the villain. And those other peripheral characters will be portrayed by Mr. Smythe and Mr. Jones. So not only will they portray themselves as storytellers, but they will take on the roles of Beast and Gaston, Mother Gothel, and that's a lot of fun. These stories are great stories, and I'm so thrilled that we've selected these two. The source material is wonderful. And what you have are these two young ladies, as well as the other characters, who really take a personal journey of following their heart, realizing their dreams. And once they get to the point of realizing their dreams, they discover so many more opportunities. And the reason I mention that is I'm hoping that our guests, our audiences, when they come to see our shows, that they will actually walk away with kind of this renewed sense to be a little more adventurous, be a little kinder. The Beast learns a lesson. He starts out as a selfish, angry character, but learns how to love. And this is something I hope the audiences will walk away, perhaps to love a little bit more, and also just to laugh at a few things. They left. As the guys over here, I was going to say we're having auditions for the role of the Beast, but I need to print that. So there you go. It's going to be a lot of fun. I like to refer to these shows as Renaissance Vaudeville, but thank you very much.
There you go. That was Chris Utley, Imagineer and show director for the new area, Fantasy Faire. He was, of course, talking about those new shows. It's more than just meet and greets in this area. It is a whole courtyard, yes, and you'll be able to explore in there, as we've just heard, sort of the overview of what will be in that courtyard. And yes, there will be meet and greets. I'll talk more about that in just a second. But these shows are certainly something new that'll be in that area. The exact former spot for Carnation Plaza Gardens, where the dancing used to go on and the music acts used to go on. This is where these shows are going to take place. They're going to be 15 to 20 minute shows. One is for telling the tales of Rapunzel. One's telling the tales of Beauty and the Beast / Belle. 6 shows total per day, 3 of each. And they'll sort of an interesting assortment of entertainment there. Those of you looking at the video version right now, this is a model that you're seeing. Of course, the real one is under construction, but this model is on display over at the Blue Sky Cellar, showing off exactly what the whole area is going to look like. And it really is an extension of Fantasyland coming out in front of the castle. And a lot of cast members over at Blue Sky Cellar have been telling folks that this was originally Walt Disney's idea, not specifically what's going in there, of course, but the idea of extending Fantasyland out beyond the castle off to the side. Whether or not there's truth to that, who knows? But this is where Fantasyland now is expanding outward, and will be certainly taking over that spot to the left of Sleeping Beauty Castle. Now, the meet and greet areas of Fantasy Faire is going to be, very different from what Disneyland is used to. Characters certainly roam around a lot out at Disneyland, and currently the princesses are seen over in Royal Walk, which is over by It's a Small World, very much out in the open. Now the princesses are going to be a little bit tucked away inside this Fantasy Faire area, but you're going to be able to meet multiple kind of after waiting in one line. They are going to try to bring out performers as you're waiting in the line to entertain as needed. Of course, princesses will still be able to roam occasionally in the parks. There will be no fast pass available for Fantasy Faire, so if you want to meet the princesses, then it's going to be an assortment. They're not necessarily picking this princess or that princess, but so if you want to meet the Disney princesses, this is going to be the place to be. It was also noted that following each of those 2 shows, Belle and Rapunzel would be available for meet and greets as well. So moving on from there, let's learn a little bit more about why they decided to really sort of take this transition from Carnation Plaza Gardens and put in Fantasy Faire instead. And for that, I turn our attention once again over to Imagineer and creative director Michel.
I think a lot of people thought that the princesses far back in Fantasyland in a structure that was really meant to be to have there to have great shows, and luckily we're getting a very nice show in there again. It made a lot of sense to give the princesses a very well themed and appropriate setting next to Disneyland's castle.
Simple as that. Prior to the princesses being in that royal walk over at It's a Small World, they were tucked away in that Princess Fantasy Faire, which is was in the Fantasyland Theater, which is currently being made over into Mickey and the Magical Map, which will be opening later this year, and we'll be hearing more about here in just a few minutes. But so the reasoning was pretty simple. They wanted a better place for the princesses to meet fans. That's it. And so they decided that this would be the right direction to go in, and so to learn a little bit more about the Fantasy Faire project, as I said, I sent Paul Berry from A Window to the Magic to he gathered all of this, and every bit of audio and video. For those of you watching the video version, all of that is his doing, and I thank him very much for putting all that together. He also had a chance to talk with some of the folks that you've heard from and a few others, so I'm going to share some interviews with you here as well, starting once again with Michel Dulk for a little bit more information about this Fantasy Faire project.
How many Disney animated films are represented in Fantasy Faire?
Well, let's see.
You mean in more like the facility, in the architecture, or with all the prints?
Just a combination, but the architecture, you know, we know about the princesses, but are you representing specific films in the architecture, or?
Not in the architecture per se. So the architecture, like I said, like Fantasyland is kind of neutral.
Right.
But we have hints, so the scope path was from the Hunchback.
Right.
And the Hunchback himself will also be in that same little structure. There's Figaro from Pinocchio, Rapunzel from Tangled. Flynn will actually have a little poster in the Circular Pass-Through, the Wanted poster.
Okay.
The movie will be there. And then Maurice is Beauty and the Beast.
Very nice.
The princesses, of course, can vary. So, but facility-wise, in the architecture, hidden in the architecture, those are the movies that we put into the area.
Okay, cool. And do you know why the move was made to move the princesses inside instead of having them out in Fantasyland? Why?
Well, we looked at a lot of different options. Actually, if you go into the Blue Sky Cellar, you also see an option, a little sketch for an outdoor version.
Okay.
But for photography, it just makes a little bit more sense to do it inside.
A little more control.
And it's also, for the weather, although California has great weather most of the time. You know, it's those little areas or days where we don't have it that we want people to have the same experience.
Very nice.
So there you have it, a little bit more information from or about Fantasy Faire. Now, in addition to meet and greets, in addition to shows, in addition to this courtyard full of stuff that you can look at and enjoy the sights and the sounds of, there is going to be, of course, merchandise. There's the Fairy Tale Treasures shop, be home to princess merchandise, of course. But more interesting to me is what you heard about at the beginning, sort of in this overview, very briefly, Maurice's Treats. It's a little cart off to the side, and those of you familiar with New Fantasyland and Gaston's Tavern will immediately find one element that's going to be served there quite familiar. There's going to be a what Disney loves this phrase now that they've been using, a signature drink. It's not Red's Apple Freeze like over in Cars Land. It's not LeFou's Brew from Gaston's Tavern in New Fantasyland, though it is served in the same more or less mug as Gaston's Tavern. The new drink is the Boysen Apple Freeze, a play on Poison Apple, of course. And it's very similar, but not exactly the same. And to learn more about this drink, along with some other what sound like absolutely delicious options that will be served at Maurice's Treats, Paul talked with Chef Toby Hollis, followed by Carlos, let's see if I can pronounce this right, Siqueiros from Concept Development at Disneyland. So let's listen to what they had to say about the new food offerings that will be available in this Fantasy Faire area.
The chef who's going to be running the area.
Oh, very nice, very nice. What are you going for?
Well, my personal stuff is the twist items. The rest of this was just for you guys to kind of a little continental breakfast, basically.
Okay.
But we do have the twist. If you want to step over there, these are the ones we're actually carrying.
Okay.
In the actual size.
Wow, they're big.
So it's designed almost like a wand, if you really think about it, or like a lance, if you want to think about it.
Oh, nice.
It's Fantasy Faire, so you've got that little aspect to it.
Right.
And princesses always love their wands, so we've got the savory and the sweet as well. So
very nice.
This is but like an everything bagel. You basically take an everything bagel and twist it around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what we made out of that. And then these are puff dough with the filling of chocolate or strawberry preserves, or the chocolate.
Wow.
So it depends on which way you want to go, which way you prefer. We'll carry all three of those at the same time.
Okay.
So these will be warmed up. These will be served slightly over room temperature, but not too much.
Okay.
So after they get too warm, they fell apart.
Cheese ones? Is it warmed up?
Yes. The cheese one we warmed up.
The other one, strawberry chocolate?
Correct.
Are they vegetarian? I mean, do they have any non-veggie items?
There's butter in them. There's butter in them. Yeah.
Butter? Okay.
Butter and cheese. So they're vegetarian, but not vegan.
But not vegan.
Yeah.
Okay. And what else in the area are you doing?
Yeah, well, I also have the Poison Apple drink that you tasted.
Okay.
The frozen slushy.
I didn't get a chance to taste that. Is it the same as over in Cars Land?
Similar to, but not the exact same thing. So it's the same base, but they added a different flavored syrup and a different foam on top.
Oh, really?
So very similar to it, but different. So think poison apple, like poison apple. So
cute.
We
Poison apple, like poison apple,
like poison apple with snow.
Yes.
So we go think about it that way. So you've got the poison apple freeze, and then you've got the 3 twists. So
very nice. Will anything else be served at that cart?
At that location, currently not. We're looking at once we open to see if we need to expand it out. Maybe we offer a different bagel. Maybe we offer a different twist. Maybe we offer fresh fruit. Depends what we want to do.
Okay.
So
very nice.
We were also concurrently working on the Troubadour Tavern stuff for the magical map, so that's all in process as well. So we got some good individual items that nobody else carries in that location as well.
So. So there will be specific food over there as well. Okay, all right. And we'll find out about that later.
Exactly.
Very nice.
And I'm sure I'll be there for that one too. What's that? Pricing, I have no. They've worked it out, but they haven't released it to us.
So they really haven't released it.
It's above my pay grade.
Yeah, there you go.
Mickey's been keeping those to himself.
Right.
But they're all pretty reasonable in retrospect every day. Also, like maybe a similar price to a churro at the Top Del, or since they carry a similar twist here, it'll probably be the same price.
We actually produce these as well for Walt Disney World.
Okay.
And it's the same concept. So basically, for Gaston's out there.
The tavern.
Yes.
Okay.
And be our guest.
Oh, okay.
The restaurant too.
So this will be our guest.
But it's the same design and the shape of the mug. We just changed the art.
Oh, I gotcha.
So theirs has different look to this, and theirs only has Belle.
That makes sense.
Belle and the rose on the other side.
Okay.
So it's a lot of fun. So there's a series for you.
Oh, yeah, very nice.
6 degrees of exclusivity.
Yeah, it's another reason to go out to Florida.
I like that. 6 degrees of exclusivity. So that'll be fun. So there's a series in this thing too, and it allows us also here. You know, let's just say there's a whole new rendition of princesses to come around. We can feature them on these trips as well.
That's true. Very true.
And so we can always play. In fact, we're already thinking about another new princess coming down at Christmas time.
Of course.
So.
Yeah, that's great.
Imagineering comes up with a storyline, and now what can we do with it?
Oh, very nice.
So now we think, okay, great. You know what? Maurice, big inventor, he came up with these contraptions that produces these products.
Nice.
So then we got his cart. Drew it up, there it is. And then we're talking about how it was Maurice's contraptions that actually produced the poison apple freeze. Not a poison apple freeze, but a poison apple freeze. So he takes berries and he takes apples and some ice, puts it in this thing, and out comes this gorgeous product.
Wonderful.
He came up with another contraption that puts out these wonderful pastries.
Those look great.
Did you try them?
I did not.
Oh,
no.
Okay, well, we have the strawberry.
Yep.
We have the chocolate. And then the one that's really surprising people is our cheddar, cheddar garlic bagel twist.
Wow.
And that is really neat. It is a really neat surprise. And the idea is that the contraption twists everything together. So that's where our twists come from. And when you come up to the cart, it'll be run through the oven, and it'll be served to you fresh and warm.
Nice and warm.
Yes. And so it'll be another really fun piece. Something that we're kind of already talking about.
Okay.
We take this garlic bread and turn it into a loaf, and then we slice it, and now we have a new bun.
Oh, yeah.
So these are things that we play with and how we can talk about it. But that's later down the line.
You're right.
Now we're going to open with this, see how we go, and then who knows? Maurice may come up with some more machines for us later on.
And I'm certainly hungry and thirsty now that I've heard all about those, the bagel twists and the sweet ones and the new drinks, and I just want to get out there and try those immediately. Of course, all of it's opening March 12th, as I said, so not too far away, a little over a month away. Now, for those of you who are still wondering, well, what about the old Carnation Plaza Gardens? What about swing dancing? That was the big thing when Disneyland first announced that they were closing Carnation Plaza Gardens after so many decades. I mean, even Walt Disney himself was, seen many a time out there dancing on the dance floor at Carnation Plaza Gardens. It was a huge piece of Disney history. Why are they turning it into princesses, and what's going to become of it all? Well, Disney assured everybody that while swing dancing was going to leave the park and was going to move over to downtown Disney for a while, that it would be returning over to Disneyland once Fantasy Faire came back, that they would figure out how to do that. Well, of course, that question came up during this event, this preview of Fantasy Faire. And the answer did not come from the Imagineers working on the project. Instead, the answer went over to Imagineering's PR guy. And when the PR guys answer a question, well, the answer is a little bit vague and not always the best answer that you could possibly want. So we're going to go back on over to that Q&A session, and we're going to hear from Disneyland's, one of Disneyland's many PR guys. His name is John McClintock, and he fielded the questions about swing dancing, maybe, possibly, in the future returning to Disneyland. Here is what he had to say about
We want to see how Fantasy Faire is going to unfold. So when it opens on March 12th, we're going to spend some time letting Fantasy Faire be Fantasy Faire so that we can see what the guest impact is, and then we'll make those decisions later on. The stage is flexible. That whole performance space, the seating can be rearranged or taken out if we desire. Right now, though, we want to see what Fantasy Faire is going to be, and to continue using everything right now as a Fantasy Faire location. The decisions for other ways in which we can use that performance space are going to be made later.
Yeah. So, notice his very, very careful wording there. He didn't actually use the words swing dancing at any point. He just said other potential uses, or, any variation of that for the future. So he, I'm sure, didn't want to be quoted specifically by the reporters in attendance at this preview as saying swing dancing will do this or won't do this, because really what he was saying is they have not made any of those decisions. For now, when it opens next month, there will be no swing dancing at Disneyland. It will continue at Downtown Disney as it has been for a while, and the future of swing dancing at this point is completely unknown. Many fans have said, you know what, let's just put it over at on Buena Vista Street over at Disney California Adventure, like they did for the grand opening of that in front of Carthay Circle. What a perfect place for it, and I completely agree. Create a little bit of traffic congestion there, but so what? I think it would be amazing to have it there. Certainly a more appropriate place, and that, sticks with that sort of tribute to Walt Disney as well. In fact, the storyteller statue is right there looking over that sort of, Carthay Circle hub area. I think that would work out just great, and maybe they are thinking about that, maybe they're not, who knows. But at this point, don't count on that element of Carnation Plaza Gardens coming back to Disneyland. However, the Imagineers haven't left out Carnation Plaza Gardens completely. They did include, or are including, a little bit of a tribute to the old gardens there. They've got an emblem that they're putting up on a tower in Fantasy Faire that says CPG with some little flowers on it. So, of course, CPG, Carnation Plaza Gardens. So there's the little tribute that they've worked in. Other than that, it's becoming Princess Central, whether you like it or not. And so March 12th is the opening date, and you can look forward to going in there and meeting, Cinderella, Aurora, Rapunzel, Belle, and all the princesses that'll rotate out through there, the new entertainment, etc., etc. Now, there is one more bit of entertainment that is coming to Disneyland that we're going to talk about here at the conclusion of this show, and that is Mickey and the Magical Map. In addition to talking about Fantasy Faire, Disneyland also offered a few additional details about this upcoming show that is going into the Fantasyland Theater. And to talk about that was the Vice President of Theatrical Development, Michael Jung. And so let's turn our attention back over into the park, into Disneyland, to hear what he had to say about how this show is going to work, what it's going to be like, and a few more details.
I'm very excited to share with you today Mickey and the Magical Map. The show is slated to open this summer, 25-minute musical spectacle featuring Mickey and several of our most beloved Disney characters, with some original music as well as some great classic Disney songs that have been rearranged and reorchestrated to feel really fresh and fun and contemporary. We have an amazing team working on this show, and we're really excited that particularly the Fantasyland Theater is being refurbished. Our princesses are getting a new home, so it's great to be able to bring a wonderful new entertainment experience to our park. I think you all know storytelling is always at the heart of everything that we do here at Disneyland, and no place more than Fantasyland as that really comes to life. So this is an opportunity to really bring those characters back and embrace you in the story in a fun new way. So our story begins in the mysterious workshop of Yen Sid, who is the sorcerer from Fantasia. And on this day, when we walk into the theater, we see this kind of wonderful, magical workshop environment, and there's a big, big map that has been covered with a giant cloth. We hear a beautiful musical prologue, and the cloth begins to unveil sparkly material everywhere and reveals this gorgeous, beautiful, magical map. Now the map, of course, is a big, innovative theatrical trick. It's actually a giant LED screen that is treated to look very painterly, very much, not technical at all, but really embrace that aesthetic of Fantasyland. And of course, it's able to do many, many tricks. There are stairs on either side that allow our ensemble to come up and down, as well as multiple layers within the map itself that allow for performers to walk on different levels. And of course, the map can open and split, it animates and comes to life in many unique and fun ways. But as we arrive, we see the image of Yen Sid, the sorcerer from Fantasia, and he welcomes us, and he explains that today is a really magical day. They're just about to put the finishing touches on his newest creation, this magical map that allows dreamers to go anywhere in their imagination. There's just one spot left to be painted. And we go into an opening number called Journey into Imagination, where our ensemble begins to appear. And they're map makers. They work with Yen Sid. They're sort of magical. They all have these incredible paint brushes. And everything that you see, they'll begin to paint and bring to life. And through the number, they begin to activate the map, and you see things start to swirl. Paint is really a heavy image in the show, and it's all about this notion of animation and paint and the magical quality that it has. As the number starts to soar and build, at the end of it, Mickey arrives. He's in his sort of sorcerer's apprentice outfit, but he's a young apprentice. He hasn't quite become an official apprentice yet, and more than anything, Mickey wants to be this apprentice. And he arrives carrying buckets of paints for his colleagues to begin painting, and he puts them down, and he sees that there's one brush left. And he thinks, well, maybe if I pick up that brush, I can. And Yen Sid, of course, reminds him that, Mickey, you're not yet an apprentice. You have to learn the secret of the map. You're not ready yet. And Mickey's very disappointed. He really wants to do this. And at the end of the number, all the map makers leave, and Mickey's there alone. And he realizes there's this one little spot on the map that still hasn't been painted. And he wonders out loud, and he thinks to himself, well, maybe if I paint that little spot, I can prove to Yen Sid that I really should be an apprentice, and I can make myself, courageous in his view. So he picks up the paintbrush, and he starts to go to the spot and paint it. And of course, the spot comes to life. And the spot actually is one of the main characters. It's a playful, funny nemesis who engages a lot with Mickey. It comes to life and it splatters all over the stage. It gets paint all over Mickey. Very comical. We're really looking at being inspired by those quality cartoons, the silly symphonies, the more mischievous and playful Mickey that we know from the animated world. So Mickey really has a lot of fun with this. Chases after the spot, wants to engage it, and the spot causes a little bit of trouble for Mickey. It sets the compass on the map spinning, and of course Mickey gets caught up into it, and everything begins to transform around him, and we go into an incredible world, see if we have an image of it, which becomes the world of India, and it takes us into the Jungle Book, where we meet the characters from the Jungle Book, and a magical production number of I Want to Be Like You. Great classic Disney song. Throughout this, our map maker apprentices are kind of the ensemble. They're the chorus members, if you will, and they really bring everything to life with their paintbrushes. And you can see here in some of the concept art, the paintbrushes become palm trees and bring us into the world of India. Oversized drums and paint splatters really take up the percussion of the number. Monkeys and other characters come to life through the video, and of course some of our classic Disney characters that perform the song. Now at the end of this song, Mickey's hidden away in a little paint bucket up here, and he peeks out. He wonders what's going on. He knows he's been transported. He wants to find that spot. And so he goes after the spot. They have another kind of playful, comic interaction. But this time he thinks he's got the spot. The spot appears underneath him. And suddenly, Mickey falls into the spot. And very magically, Mickey becomes absorbed into the world of the map. And now we see Mickey inside of the map. And of course, this is a great opportunity for Mickey to become truly a cartoon character. All that squash and stretch and animation that we can do in a really fun and really magical way comes to life. As that transitions, a beautiful waterfall starts to appear on the map and come down. And our ensemble begins to use their paintbrushes like a canoe, and we see Pocahontas appear out of the map, and we go into a lovely rendition of Just Around the Riverbed. As Pocahontas begins to sing that, it transitions, and on the map we see gorgeous lotus blossoms, cherry blossoms flying across the screen, and now we reveal Mulan, and Mulan begins to sing Reflection. And then as Mulan sings part of Reflection, the map once again changes and the floating lanterns start to appear in another area of the map, and we welcome Flynn and Rapunzel to perform I See the Light from Tangled. All of these three songs, even though the princesses are living in their separate area, begin to fuse musically into a beautiful number. I'm really excited for you to hear it. Our team's actually working on it right now, and it's kind of magical to hear all of these songs interweave in a really different, unique way. And it's a great moment to celebrate some of our Disney princess favorites who aren't necessarily going to be living in the Fantasy Faire. As this number comes to a close, Mickey's inside the map now with a spot, and he's more determined than ever to get this spot painted and to find this little spot. He grabs the spot, he kind of wrestles with it, and he finally captures it. And it's like a water fight with the spot. The paint really becomes kind of amorphous and animated and magical. It starts splashing and splattering all over. And in fact, it causes a little bit of a leak inside the map. And it starts to fill up with water and fill up with water. And just when Mickey thinks all is lost, of course, Sebastian appears and welcomes us Under the Sea. We go into a really over-the-top production number of Under the Sea with all the wonderful characters. Even Ariel, of course, makes a grand appearance in this number. It's quite lovely and fun and playful. There's a lot of interaction with the audience and bubbles and big, wonderful moments throughout the production number. At the end of that number, Mickey and the spot have really come to kind of the ultimate payoff. And Mickey realizes that he can control the world of the map, just like the mapmaker's apprentice is, and then he can paint his way. So he manages to paint a series of stairs, and he finally captured the spot under a paint bucket. But he realizes that the spot really doesn't want to be painted, and they've been having so much fun on this adventure that Mickey starts to realize that maybe he's overdoing it, that maybe the spot should be left alone, that it doesn't really want to be painted. And the spot, of course, really responds to that and decides to take him on yet one more adventure together this time. And this time, for the first time, Mickey actually enters the world of the production number, and we soar into a world of beautiful tropical island, and we're in a production number from Lilo and Stitch for Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride. This time, Mickey's actually embraced he and the spot as part of the number, and it's a really fun, over-the-top number that features Lilo and Stitch and all the characters from that wonderful film. At the end of that number, Mickey and the spot have really become great friends. They're having a lot of fun. And we see Mickey being very absorbed into the number, and suddenly the spot starts to grow and grow and grow, and we realize that the spot's actually the pupil of Yen Sid's eye. And all along, Yen Sid has really been taking Mickey on this journey. In fact, it's really been a little bit of a challenge. And of course, Mickey has succeeded with flying colors, and Yen Sid rewards him by telling him that now he's proven himself and that he really is ready truly to be a mapmaker's apprentice. He gives Mickey, in a very big, sort of wonderful way, a golden paintbrush and tells Mickey that now he can go on his own adventures and take all of us with him. And of course, Mickey decides that he wants to have one final wonderful adventure with all of us, and he begins to paint the set. The map begins to open up, and a beautiful steamboat made out of paintbrushes and different apparatuses appear in a magical way, and of course welcome us into the world of New Orleans, and one of my favorite production numbers on the show, which is Dig a Little Deeper from Princess and the Frog. So throughout this show, we get to meet a lot of wonderful characters, and at the end of it, we really celebrate and realize that the spot really represents that great notion of Walt himself, that as long as there is imagination left in the world, we can go there, we can journey there with our own imagination. So that's our show. It's really a wonderful show intended for a family audience, children and children at heart. So I hope you'll get a chance to see it. I know we have some more reveals as we get closer to the opening date this summer.
And there you have it. Quite a lot about Mickey and the magical map. Pretty much the whole show description there sounds a lot like something that would be on Disney Cruise Line. Sort of, a show that's exploring all of these different Disney films, sort of highlight iconic moments and songs, blending them together across this one big storyline. Fortunately, it sounds like they're not introducing any sort of outside characters. That's always been my biggest problem with the Disney Cruise Line shows. I've loved the production numbers. I've loved the songs, the characters and the visuals and all of that, but then when they introduce sort of these like teenagers and other outside, regular old average Joe type people to go on this journey through it all, I don't really care about those characters. I really just want to see the Disney characters. So to make Mickey the one who's going through all of these scenes and really enjoying all of these musical numbers and being part of it and having them all together in different formats and set changes and all of that stuff, it sounds like it's going to be a really exciting show, and 25 minutes of pretty much non-stop musical excitement with a variety of characters. I'm going to have fun not only seeing that, but also photographing it. Hopefully they'll allow photographs. I always like the challenge of characters flying all over the place on the stage and trying to snap away at all of those. So that should be fun. Sounds like a good time. There is no official start date for that show quite yet, other than a bit later this year. Of course, Fantasy Faire is coming first. March 12th is the opening date from that, and we'll keep you on top of it all. Once again, thanks to Paul Berry from windowtothemagic.com for covering all that for us, and more to come.
There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
Now we're going to wrap up the show there, skipping listener feedback because we are just simply out of time. But I do think there's been a lot to be entertained by and surprised by on this week's show. All that Fantasy Faire and Mickey the Magical Map and all of that. Very, very exciting and entertaining. Of course, we got an Epic Mickey contest, which is, don't forget to enter that. But aside from that, Tony Baxter, not a full-time Imagineer. That's one you just can't wrap your head around. I mean, he's been an Imagineer my whole life, literally, plus another 15 years, which is kind of crazy to think about. Pretty much almost every, possibly every major attraction, every attraction for that matter, that has come out of Disney into a Disney park over the last 47 years, Tony's probably had a hand in somewhere. Sometimes big, sometimes small, offering advice, etc. It's just crazy to think he's not going to be a full-time part of Imagineering anymore. I can't imagine he's going to stay in that part-time advisor role for very long, although, certainly Imagineers would look to him for mentorship, but I have a feeling he'll find his way elsewhere into either the world of book writing or perhaps into themed design elsewhere. Wouldn't it be funny if he found his way over to Universal? Anyway, so there's that. Junction Point Software closing down, and of course Bob Iger's response to Congressman Markey. Kind of a crazy week. And lots more. So anyway, I want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. Don't forget to check out the Capturing Magic iPhone apps as well. Search for Capturing Magic in iTunes, and you can grab that for Walt Disney World and Disneyland to keep track of all those magical memories you capture through photography. So good stuff there. And of course, visit our website over at InsideTheMagic.net. It is your source for Disney and theme park news. Has each week's show notes, links, background music listings, all that good stuff. But in addition, all of our videos and photos and news and articles, and find us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube to keep up with all of the latest Disney and theme park fun between episodes of this show. So thank you very much for listening and for watching each and every week. And have a magical week. Bye.
Beautiful tomorrow, just a dream of